Hey, Clemson family, here we are. When is the last time you saw a basketball game finish like that in the Tigers' favor? Just amazing drama. The Hunter brothers, to me, really keyed by Chase Hunter getting that 3-point play, making that layup through the foul, and just what a finish to defeat Arizona. Clemson, folks, is in the Elite Eight for the first time that I can really remember. I was a little kid the last time it happened.
I'm Daniel Shirley. I was a little kid too. I'm the same age as you are, but I lived in the area, right?
Yeah,
And I
exactly.
remember Larry Nance and Moose Campbell and Bobby Conrad and Horace Wyatt and Fred Gillum, and I mean that's when I started watching basketball. Really was those teams, and a little bit before maybe Tree Rollins and Stan Rome, but that Larry Nance led team that went to the Elite Eight. Now we also have to say back then the field was smaller, so it won 2 games to get to the Elite Eight.
Yeah.
This team tonight did something that Clemson has never done in the NCAA tournament, and that's win 3 games. It's
Yep.
just stunning, remarkable. I don't think I thought I would ever live to see it. And here we are. The Tigers are 1 win away from going to the Final Four.
Pretty amazing, and what a team effort above all else. I'm Bill Zimmerman. This is the Reign Supreme Alway podcast, a little unplanned live episode. We're just going to kind of wing this and see what we can come up with. YouTube.com/Clemson Kickoff. You can see all our past episodes. Uh, you don't have to go back if you don't want to. I will just admit this is going to be the most positive basketball episode that Daniel and I have had in the entire 2 years of this podcast. Again, just everybody made this thing happen. Once again, the Tigers did well when PJ Hall had to sit. Ian Schieffelin just was able to do a little bit of everything, wasn't he? Chase Hunter, like I said, coming through clutch in the end there. You saw Godfrey contributing very nicely at times. Just again, and PJ did have a little bit of an up and down game, but a good game, right? Like a solid game, a good performance. The Tigers really did capitalize on on an Arizona team that struggled in the first half.
They did. And Bill, if I'd have told you PJ Hall scored 17 points tonight, would you have believed that? Because I would not have believed that. And, just looking at the stats, he did score 17 points, and it felt like he struggled in
It was
this
a
game.
labor for him, yeah.
Yeah, but he got it done. Chase Hunter, remember the ACC tournament episode we did? And I said, who's the key? You said, who's the key to this team? And I said, it's Chase Hunter. When Chase Hunter plays well, they can play with anybody.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people have picked Arizona to win the national title, and Clemson just knocked them off. Now, again, UConn is the big favorite. We know that. But the people who haven't picked UConn, a lot of them have picked Arizona. And he outplayed Caleb Love the whole game. Outplayed him and dominated the game from his spot, makes the huge shot at the end, and then Dylan, his little brother, gets the put away points there on the foul and missed the free throw, but he makes the basket. You love the shot of their mother up in the crowd. You wish their father Bryce had been there to see it, or that he was still with us. But that's not the case. Just love the fact I had a UGA fan tell me he hates all the Georgia legacy guys helping lead Clemson to the Elite Eight. And, it's the 200s, RJ Godfrey, whose dad played football for Georgia, Randall. But also look at Metro Atlanta, Chauncey Wiggins from Metro Atlanta. Those 3 guys are too, but Chauncey Wiggins is too. You mentioned Ian Schieffelin. 5 Metro Atlanta guys on this roster helping Clemson go to the final or Elite Eight, maybe the Final Four. We'll see. But what a great game for Schieffelin. What a great game for Chase Hunter. A really solid game for PJ. Bill, if I'd have told you that they were going to go to the Elite Eight and win 3 games in the tournament, and PJ wasn't the best player on the team in any of those games, would you have believed that? And it's not, not his fault. I'm not saying he's playing poorly.
Right.
Other guys have raised their level, and that starts with Chase Hunter.
Man, this is turning into a 30 for 30. What if I told you? No? Chase Hunter, 18 points tonight. PJ Hall, 17 points tonight. Ian Schieffelin, 14 points tonight. 3 guys solidly into double digits. A 77-point night for the Tigers. I wasn't sure what the tempo of this game would be like, but I knew if Arizona controlled it, it would be fast. The Tigers did well in that first half and early in the second half, I think, at keeping the tempo manageable, at not letting Arizona get into what it likes to do best. And look, Arizona stayed confident that entire game. Like even when the shots were not falling, even when they were down 16-8, and there were score kept getting higher and higher, and every now and then we'd have them double. I think right to 29-16, if I remember right. We were like a 3-pointer away from doubling them at that point. Arizona did not give up. They didn't quit. They didn't lose belief in themselves. They just kept hoisting it up like they were going to shoot themselves out of that slump. It came back to haunt them, fortunately. I think I feel like their cold night is really what determined this game. I think you feel like the Clemson defense had a little more to do with it than that.
Well, I think that this is a team that has not played well defensively throughout this year, right? And look, that's not me saying it. Brad Brownell has said throughout this season, we weren't a defensive team first. We are an offensive team first. How many times has he said that this year? But this team has played well defensively through these 3 games in the tournament. And look, Arizona didn't shoot the ball well. Baylor didn't shoot the ball well. New Mexico didn't shoot it well. But at some point, there's one common denominator in all of those games. It's that team in the orange and white. And you have to give them credit. Now, did they miss open shots? Sure. But there were also times where the shots were pressured. There were times where, Bill, I mean, also where you miss a couple of shots, you start to panic a little bit.
Yeah.
And you get panicky because you've been behind the whole game, you're not expected to be behind. You start to panic. Well, who put that pressure on you? It was Clemson by playing well early in the games. What have they been behind in this tournament? Less than a minute in 3 games? I mean, that is
right around a
just
minute.
remarkable. Right.
Yeah. Stunning. Like look, New Mexico's an 11. You're supposed to win that game. New Mexico was a pretty good 11, and you and I weren't convinced that Clemson was a 6 coming in. So that was kind of a danger Will Robinson matchup. Then you get Baylor, who you would think would not be a great matchup, run a lot of tempo, run a lot of speed. Clemson, we talked about the Virginia matchup that Clemson had during the regular season. Kind of got worn down by all that side-to-side motion, and I thought maybe Baylor with the up and down the court stuff would be able to do the same. And Clemson's defense did enough to make sure that Baylor never got rolling. Arizona got rolling a little bit tonight, and you mentioned the word panic. Even when the tempo started to favor Arizona tonight, even when Clemson started playing it a little faster on offense than they should have been, started shooting the ball a little with a little more time on the clock than they should have, there was never panic in Clemson tonight.
Yeah.
And that to me, like this, and I haven't gotten to see a lot of games beginning to end. I've relied a lot on highlights this year, but Clemson, even though for a lot of the game Clemson didn't look like the more capable team necessarily, I think they played a really solid, sound Clemson basketball game. And boy, let me tell you, those T-shirts, Clemson Electric, they finished electric. I mean, it was just an amazing closeout to this game. Every time that Arizona pulled within a bucket, there was an answer, and there was a convincing answer, and you could hear it in the crowd. I don't know if some of the North Carolina and Bama fans were just rooting for the upset. I don't know why they'd root for Clemson. We beat them both in the regular season.
Yep.
But so look, there's a path. There's a path. It's not often I worry about what city the Final Four is in. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. There's going to be a heck of a basketball game and a heck of a battle and a motivated opponent to atone for a regular season loss against the Tigers, no matter who we face.
Sure. And Clemson's going to be a big underdog in either one of those games, but they were a big underdog on the road against those 2 teams in the regular season. But those 2 teams are different teams now, and I get that. And they're both going to be big favorites over Clemson. That's fine. Arizona was a big favorite over Clemson. Baylor was a favorite. New Mexico was a favorite. So, look, I just feel like, Bill, if we had done a final an NCAA tournament prediction about this team when they were 10-1, I would have said Sweet 16. right? Somewhere around. Hey, I think this is a Sweet 16 team. I may have even said that on our podcast. 11-9 in the ACC, not so much.
Yeah.
After the Boston College game, really not so much.
Yeah.
But this looks like the team that played the non-conference schedule. And you have to give the coaching staff credit. Look, I've has been as vocally critical of this coaching staff as anybody out there. I have. I
Yep.
mean, it's not a personal
Same.
thing. It's not a personal thing. I don't know Brad Brownell. Seems like a nice guy. Everybody says he's a nice guy. I just felt like 14 years and 3 NCAA tournament bursts were enough, or 13 and 3, now 14 and 4. But okay, I can admit when I'm wrong. And this team, I was wrong about as the season went along. I felt great about this team when they beat TCU and when they beat Alabama and in all those games in the non-conference. I didn't trust this team coming out of the ACC play, but you have to give this team, this coaching staff credit. Bill, go back and look at the inbound plays from under the basket in this
Yeah.
game.
Yeah.
How many
Especially that
times
one late.
how many times did they run that play tonight? I can count 3 off the top of my head where they one to at least 2, one to PJ and one to Jack Clark. They ran the same play. They saw something on the film. You don't just run that play willy-nilly without knowing something. They saw that Arizona's big men jump out to cover the 3. Clemson big man goes under the basket, layup. So that's coaching, that's preparation. And again, that's somebody who has been really critical of this coaching staff. I can own that. I can own when I'm wrong. And even when I've been critical, I'm not cheering against Clemson,
That's the thing. Right.
right? I want this program to reach its potential. And I probably care about Clemson basketball more than most Clemson people do. I went to camp there. I grew up going to games with my dad. My dad had season tickets. I went to camp under Bill Foster and Cliff Ellis. I'm showing
Wow.
my age a little bit. But 4 times I went to basketball camp there. you know. So, I the only real autographs I've ever gotten in my life were Tree Rollins and Stan Rome when I was about 6 or 7.
Yeah.
So you want this program to reach its potential, and it felt like it had been stuck in the mud. And then this group comes along and does this. And you have to give this coaching staff credit for what they've been able to do. They looked better prepared to start the game than any of the 3 teams they played the last 3 games.
Yeah. Let me bring a couple things up that have come to mind at various points in the night, and I'll try to hold it to these two. I don't want to go on too long with this, but number one, everybody's saying the ACC maybe is a better conference than everyone thought. I mean, it sure looks this way at this point, right? Like, let's see what
Yep.
happens with North Carolina against Alabama. But as far as getting out of the opening round of 64 and the follow-up round of 32 and into the Sweet 16, pretty nice track record for the ACC so far, and maybe that has a lot to do with the Tigers going 11-9 in conference, and admittedly causing some disappointment in me after that hot start early in the year. But then, the loss to Memphis, the loss to Miami, both looked preventable. There were some what I thought were preventable losses along the way in conference. Maybe that's just part of the ACC grind. And then number two, something you and I did discuss during the year, and we didn't give it a ton of discussion, but the injuries that this club dealt with midway through the year, particularly Hemingway and Clark. Boy, Clark with a nail 3 in that second half at one point,
Absolutely.
just lined it right up and drained it. Maybe those did have more to do with that lull during the ACC stretch of the season than we really were trying to attribute it to. And look, part of getting through a season is having depth and being able to have enough of a bench that can contribute. Maybe Godfrey grew up a little bit during that, and that's why he's able to contribute strongly now. You see it in sports all the time. A guy who has to answer the bell unexpectedly, maybe he doesn't do it so great right away. I can think of a little microcosm of that on the football field. Austin Bryant against Oklahoma in that playoff
Yep.
semifinal. when
Absolutely.
Shaq Lawson went down, and he was struggling out there. Halftime came kind of mercifully for him. They got him calmed down. They got him thinking straight, and ended up making some really key plays down the stretch drive in the second half there for them. And so maybe that's been able to build Clemson a little bit more depth than we gave them credit for. And here they are, a tough matchup at every stage so far, but they've won them all. They're going to have a tough matchup in the Elite Eight, no matter who wins that game. But we have seen the proof that they are capable of winning.
They are. And Bill, how many times did we say, "Where's the grit"?
Yeah.
Right. Remember how? And that became a thing. What, about 5 years ago? Clemson grit.
Right.
And where is it? Where has it been? Well, we saw it tonight.
Yeah. Ooh.
Every time Arizona made a run, and you used the right phrase, Clemson did not panic. Every time. They came back. Clemson led the whole game. Arizona finally ties it. Clemson kind of takes the lead. Arizona takes its first lead on the Caleb Love steal and basket. Clemson responds. Clemson had 65-58, somewhere around there, I think, and got 3 or 4 stops in a row, but couldn't score on their end to kind of expand the lead. And you're thinking, man, that's going to come back and bite this team. And Arizona hits big shots. Clemson hits big shots. Arizona makes a big play. Clemson makes a big play. And that goes back again to the leadership of the team. It goes back, again, coaching. You got to credit the coaches, but you've got to credit a PJ Hall, a Chase Hunter, those guys who've been there for a long time. They got big minutes early from Chauncey Wiggins. They got big minutes throughout the night from R.J. Godfrey. You mentioned Jack Clark. Hey, look, Gerard didn't shoot the ball well, but he made several big plays in this game.
Took the words right out of my mouth.
Right. So everybody who played contributed. And, you look, they only played 8 guys.
Right.
They've cut, you feel for Josh Beadle. He hadn't played the last couple of games. Maybe he comes up big on Saturday. Clemson is playing in the Elite Eight on Saturday night with a chance to go to the Final Four. I just never thought we would live to see this again.
Well, and especially not after the loss to Wake and the loss to BC, right? And you can't. Did we mention this the other day? You can't just say, "Hey, well, it's because they're well rested," because NC State has done very well as well.
Absolutely. And and North Carolina played deep into the ACC tournament, and they're still playing, right? So, Duke and Clemson both lost their first game. They're still playing. North Carolina and NC State played deep. They're still playing. So, there's really no one way to do that. But, man, Chauncey Wiggins hit 2 huge threes in the first half.
Mm-hmm.
R.J. Godfrey played like a man again. He hits a 3. So, you just look at where this team is. Dylan Hunter, again, makes the basket at the end. So I just marvel at this group and what this group has been able to do. And, from feeling like this team was stuck in the mud 2 weeks ago to now there's a chance for them to go to the Final Four. Bill, right now, and it's about 10 o'clock, right, on Thursday night. There's 2 teams that are 3 wins away from winning the championship. 2. UConn and Clemson. Now, there are going to be more teams join the group. But this team is 3 games away from winning a national title.
Yeah.
It's just remarkable. It's remarkable. And if you'd have told me this when they were 10-1, I would have said, yeah, I can see that. I could see it. Because they showed when you win at Alabama and you do that. And even after the win at North Carolina, I would have said, yeah, this team can do that. But not 2 weeks ago after what we saw. And it's just, you have to, the belief that they have shown and the leadership are just, I would say I'm I don't have any words for it, but I just spoke for 5 minutes about it. So
Yep.
I'm speechless, but I'm not speechless. It's just it's
Scriptless,
special.
but not speechless.
Yes, it's special if you're a Clemson fan. This is special,
Yeah.
because we've seen this one other time, but this team had to win more games to get to that point. So
Yeah.
we've never seen this in the
Yep.
history of Clemson basketball.
YouTube.com/Clemson kickoff. I don't know. I guess we'll come at you live after Saturday's game. We'll see if we can make that happen. Let me get into a few quotes from Brad Brownell. These are definitely better quotes than we were when we were recently critical of him after the Boston College game, and I just don't understand. I love him saying anything can happen in these tournaments. By the way, this is via John Blau, the Charleston Post and Courier. I appreciate him putting these on Twitter for all the fans, and we'll bring it up as well. Anything can happen in these tournaments, but you have to have good players, and I have good players. He also says we are built for this. We can handle this. And then a little fun with Ian Schieffelin talking about Kobe Bryant sneakers, and Brownell saying, "Hey, you're playing well, but you're not Kobe Bryant." Yeah, really new shock.
Yeah.
But I mean, like I said, Schieffelin very very good, and then Brownell saying his guys just have a lot of belief in each other, and Brownell certainly believes in this team. So, whoa, what a different tone. 3 games removed from just not willing to or wanting or able to say, here's what went wrong against Boston College, huh?
Yeah, and look, he said he kind of had a meeting with them after the Boston College game, and whatever he said to them worked, and it
Yeah.
clicked. And Bill, and I don't feel like they've just played out of their minds,
No.
right? I don't feel like they've just played 3 perfect games to get to this point.
Agreed.
I still feel like they played better at Alabama than they did in some of these games. I feel like they played better at North Carolina at in some points than they did in this game or these games. So it's not like you were like, oh my God, look what they did. They shot 90%. And this isn't Villanova beating Georgetown when Villanova shot 79% or whatever it was from the field.
Yeah.
This was a team that had lulls. I mean, the Baylor game, they had a 16-point lead with about 7 minutes left, and almost gave that away. Tonight, there were stretches where you go, oh my gosh, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But that's college basketball,
Right.
But the panic, the lack of panic, and the focus. I think you just have to, hats off to Chase Hunter and Ian Schieffelin and PJ and all those 8 guys. We can name all 8 of them.
Yeah.
Right? Because they all 8 gave them something tonight. And to see the crowd reaction, Graham Neff's reaction is all over social media right now.
Right.
So, and look, I mean, hats off to him. We've been critical of him for not making a change with the basketball position. And
especially last year.
Right, especially last year. Again, I can admit when I'm wrong. And this team has proven me wrong. And I'm glad they've proven me wrong because I love watching the Clemson fan base get to enjoy this because this is what we've always wanted.
Yeah.
You watch the Sweet 16 and the March Madness and you go, dang, why can't Clemson fans get to enjoy that? Now they're getting to enjoy it.
Yep. And I'll tell you what, the other thing, I forget if you and I talked about this or if I was messaging with somebody else about it, but Brad Brownell now has a chance to do what Cliff Ellis couldn't do and what Bill Foster couldn't do and turn this into something sustained because Brownell is pretty good working the transfer portal, knowing what this team needs, finding a guy to plug in. As you know, the results haven't always been this good, obviously, as you and I have covered quite a bit. But this is a chance now. You've got a big stage to pull in some guys from the portal and kind of go pick and choose. I know there's a guard from Belmont who Hunter Tyson's younger brother, if I remember correctly. There's some other guys out there who might be good fits. Is your locker room the transfer portal? Do a couple of guys decide to say, "Hey, let's make another run at this. That we can do well here, and the money will be there for the NBA another season down the road." this has a better chance. That Cliff Ellis always bothered me that he couldn't ever get more out of that Sweet 16 than Sharon Wright and Wayne Buckingham, and of course Buck got hurt and didn't contribute the way everybody thought that he would.
Right.
Didn't get the depth out of recruiting. Whether David Young never quite panned out. Sean Tyson never quite elevated his game. Good players certainly would mop the floor with me, but I mean that's not the bar to clear, right? Brownell's got a chance to really do this, and I think that'll be the true test, and really just bringing Clemson fans and grads something to enjoy in this tournament when it's been so sparse along the way since Rick Barnes left, and even when he was here. To be frank, heck
Well,
of a night, heck of a night.
Yeah, one Sweet 16 trip for Rick Barnes, none for Purnell.
Right.
No wins for Purnell. And I loved watching those Purnell teams play. They made it to the ACC championship game.
Right.
Really had a chance to win that game, didn't get it done. They had a chance to be the first team to win at North Carolina. Remember that game where they had an 11-point lead with 3 minutes left and kept pressing for some reason, and you're like screaming, stop pressing, and let that game slip away in overtime. So, I mean, look, I tell people this all the time. If you let the facts in front of your face, if you don't let that change your mind about things, you have an agenda.
Yeah.
Right? I don't have an agenda about Brad Brownell or Clemson basketball. I want that program to be what I think it can be. So I can admit when I'm wrong. If I came on here and said, oh, he's still got to go, then I have an agenda. I don't have an agenda other than I want Clemson to win. And he has gotten the job done this year. Moving into next year, look, you got to replace P.J. Hall, Chase Hunter, Joe Girard, Jack Clark, and they've got good pieces coming up, but you're going to have big leaps from Dylan Hunter, R.J. Godfrey, Chauncey Wiggins, Ian Schieffelin. He needs to continue. You're going to have the freshmen come in, but you've got to get in the portal to get somebody to take the minutes for Chase and PJ and Joe Girard and those guys. So however that plays out, it plays out. We don't want to look too far ahead. But this feels like this is the first time there's some sustainability to the program in a long time.
Yeah.
And we'll see if it can. We'll see what happens, again, against UNC or Bama. I mean, look, if they win, unbelievable, right? If they lose, still unbelievable to get to this point. I mean, I don't know how else you can say it if you're a Clemson fan about this basketball season and playing in the Elite Eight.
Yeah. YouTube.com/Clemson Kickoff. We're also set up now on YouTube Music. If you'd rather have a podcast format, you can find us in there. The Reign Supreme Alway podcast. Our website is ClemsonKickoff.com. You can find us there as well. And at least 2 more nights of sustainability. Easy for me to say. For this program, and maybe more. We will find out what happens, like you said, when they have to offer that rematch to either Alabama or North Carolina on Saturday night. Until our next episode, maybe it'll be live right after that game. Keep an eye out for us. I'm Bill Zimmerman.
I'm Daniel Shirley. Go Tigers. Elite Eight. I don't know what else to say. I'm shocked. But what a great run.
What a game.